Oh no, the MCU is broke. Can't even afford to make a Hulk movie. Well, sounds like somebody won't be seeing green anytime soon. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed I did that. Well, here we are at Cosmic Book News once again. Who has the story and apparently confirms the scoop that Matt McCloyne had because his insiders continue to be right. He says, as they previously told him, Marvel was broke, which is why interns did all the posters for the Marvels movie. Explains why the posters looked so bad, and boy did they. And didn't they had those video promos they did where they're standing around in costumes and posing? CW did better superhero posters. You know? Anyway, so now it's learned Mark Ruffalo said that Marvel can't do a standalone Hulk movie because it's too expensive. That's true. And then there's a little something about Marvel TV overall from Daniel RPK, which we will get to shortly. So the whole thing is hilarious because the thing about Disney coughed up $300 million for the Marvels, possibly close to $400 million for Indiana Jones 5, and $200 million for both Secret Invasion and She-Hulk on DP. That's $1.1 billion spent and on only 4 projects, all of which failed. Now with She-Hulk, you can understand the expense because you got this completely CGI character in the show. Whereas with Secret Invasion, compared to She-Hulk, was certainly the CGI was very minimal. But I mean, I can understand the paycheck for the likes of Samuel Jackson, I suppose. But man, it was just such a boring show, and you just don't see the money in it. Ugh. Man, went away. Now, if they actually done the real Secret Invasion, that would have been horribly expensive. That would have to have been a movie. Maybe a whole trilogy. Well, maybe not. But anyway, it was just a colossal waste of time. And got them nothing. Only cost them money. So Disney's confirmed the Marvels lost them $200 million. Indiana Jones, and they passed on She-Hulk season number 2. Yeah. So now they're gonna, hey, we need to give Marvel TV a complete overhaul. So he tweeted about this, about the posters, and that explains why they look cheap, which is pretty solid evidence. Nerdrotics commented, WTF? Well, remember that saying, get woke, go broke? It was prophecy. Oh, poor Hulk, he can't believe it. Hulk want movie. Hulk not getting movie. No. Just ask Mark Ruffalo. So, aside from whatever may be going on with the rights regarding Universal Pictures, Mark Ruffalo has recently been addressing Hulk in the MCU and been told not to speak about it. So here he is speaking about it in GQ. He says, I'd love to do a standalone Hulk. I just don't think that that's ever going to happen. It's very expensive if you did a whole movie, which is why they use the Hulk so sparingly. I priced myself out. No, the Hulk priced himself out, not you, Mark. Yeah. And Mark is quite a drag on the whole thing because he's such an a-hole. But, you know, if he did good work, he would do good work, and that's fine. Plenty of actors say stupid stuff. That's pretty standard Hollywood fare. The thing is, he never really got the shot to play the Hulk. He's basically been guest appearance Hulk in other venues. And there was snippets of the actual Hulk story, which is a tragedy. It's a very dark, tragic story. But they only did snippet. And the worst of all was a little shoehorned romance with Black Widow that they centered around that. And that's about all he got of that. And then he became stupid, yo, chill, man, Hulk. And nobody wants to see that. He could not, if that's the idea of a Hulk movie, we're better off not getting one. Had he been the lose control of it, that creates yet the tragedy again of his greatest fear of going back to being out of control, raging beast type thing, and all of that. And that's the stuff of what could have been a great Hulk movie. But the odds that they could have done it, well, look at the other surviving Avengers. Of all of them, Hawkeye probably got the best, even though his show was stupid and he's handing the baton to a girl and all that stuff. But it was still better than what poor Thor got. Good Lord. And the sad thing about Thor Love and Thunder is that the plot points could have worked. But Taika Waititi was not going to let that happen. No. Anyway, yes, they spent over four, on over $1 billion on 4 shitty projects. And that's not opinion. That's fact. But they won't make a standalone Hulk movie. Well, again, it could have been bad, considering the talent they have working on these. And even if it had been good, would have been as big as the big guy himself, well, that's still dubious. There's a lot of problems around it. Plus, even if it was a really great Hulk film, that would have been good for Hulk. The rest of the MCU, he would still be surrounded by crap. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy did good for Guardians of the Galaxy. Likewise, Deadpool will probably do good for Deadpool. But MCU will still be, circling the toilet bowl, So anyway, this brings us to the other article, which is the focusing on grounded, otherwise cheap programming. So no more of this, because that's expensive to put her in there, but him in the right outfit, And so he makes this comparison. So, for example, while Disney coughed up the likes of $200 million for 6 episodes of Secret Invasion and another $200 million for 9 episodes of She-Hulk, something like HBO's True Detective only cost north of $32 million for the entire first season on a budget of around $4 million an episode. So, a crime drama, basically, is much cheaper to do than CGI monsters and superheroes. Whereas you could do a crime drama that cheap, and the detective is dressed like this. Well, red mostly. But that's the idea. So you have a street-level vigilante costume superhero. And, and actually this is the direction they should have gone with DP. Following Endgame, and they're in much better shape, is it wouldn't have been as costly. The streaming endeavor is a bit of a bust anyway, and probably would have been, even with good shows. If you had a very popular MCU show, yes, it's a plus, but basically you have your base subscribers, and maintaining that is not success. Gaining more, but there's only so much out there to gain. But even with a hit show, that would probably get people to tune in, so they sign up, they binge the show, and then they cancel. So you got a month's worth of a subscription, a payoff, and that's about it, And that's the Netflix model. So he goes in here again, making the point about successful shows, Walking Dead, House of the Dragons, Game of Thrones, and all that. But more in particular with Stranger Things, because that's Netflix's big hit. So they announce a new season, and they get a boost, I'm sure, in subscription numbers. And with the streaming wars, by the way, Netflix won, even though it's probably not much of a victory as they still struggle. But they had the most subscribers, and people are just going to stick with that. But you get a boost, perhaps, with the likes of Stranger Things, which DP doesn't have a Stranger Things. They had all these Marvel shows. It should have worked, but they didn't have the talent to produce any quality things that got people interested. Their closest to a hit was Loki, and that wasn't all that great. But then it's the same problem. You never had the numbers that Netflix did, and then you lose them. They binge the show and they're gone. So that's it. Is that a working business model for Disney's needs? Well, they never got there anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. So, hey, we need to make them cheaper. Yeah, you do. But even that, okay, you'll save some money that you would have lost had you kept going the way you were, which you basically went broke. And so here you are. But for Daredevil, the best you can hope for is an adequate Daredevil show. It's extremely dubious they'll achieve the excellence achieved by Netflix with those first 2 seasons, which should have been the standard for superhero TV shows. Oddly enough, the other one is Superman and Lois, which has to have been more expensive because of all the Superman stuff. But they figured it out, and they're more creative there. It's basically more of a family soap opera type show, raising kids and marriage and stuff like that. And they use Superman wisely and sparingly in there to keep it for the adventure part of it. And they came up with a pretty good model for that. And you have to have someone who can figure it out. Apparently, Disney hasn't got anybody like that. And so the odds are Daredevil, for the best, would be an adequate superhero show for DP. However, even if it was great, this masterpiece, it still wouldn't be enough to save them. I think a better business model would be to license the show out to others who have figured out streaming better than they have, for the moment anyway. Or, you know what? Just put it on ABC. You know? And then, of course, there's you want to get out of physical media. Well, but that was, once someone bought a Blu-ray, you got that money. So maybe you're leaving it all to Sony now to print up your Blu-rays. Well, okay. But nevertheless, as far as money from DP, don't think so. So there you go. Right, grounded likely means more Daredevil. Yes, they should have followed this model after Endgame. They didn't. They would have saved them some money. Moon Knight should have been a more grounded character, because Moon Knight actually, especially in the comics, he's more in line with Daredevil. He's in company with him more times than not. In the Moon Knight stories, they went for supernatural and the surrealism of his personality disorder and stuff like that. But things like that are expensive. With his magic costume that appears on him and stuff, instead of just being a suit that he puts on. Yeah, but that's the direction they went, where they could have done more of those. As for the movies, I still think they should have made Doctor Strange more of, he could have held the place that Tony Stark did, and delved more into horror elements instead of copying, oh no, a big threat to the multiverse again, and you can do a lot of elements for horror on the cheap as well. But, they didn't. And now they're in the mess they're in, especially since the MCU brand and Disney overall has quite the stench to it. And that's going to be very difficult to overcome. So even a great show wouldn't be enough. Even a great movie wouldn't be enough. It would have to be several. So it's quite the Mount Everest hill to climb. Yeah. So that's too bad. And eventually, how do you get the money, So, in the end, McClellan says, I think it's safe to say it's not the budgets of the various TV shows or what have you that are to blame if something fails, but the creatives in charge and who are developing these projects. Yeah, that's right. Just ask Sony. And, of course, for Marvel, wokeism is a lot to blame for this. Overall, and it also pushed out the talent that they desperately needed to keep. So there's that aspect to it. But with Sony, their Marvel films, Venom was just a fluke, apparently, and the rest are just bad. They're not woke films. I mean, Madam Web had an all-female cast and that sort of thing. Okay. But so what? The movies are just bad. Morbius and all that, and that Craven thing looks just awful. And then the second Venom wasn't any good. Plus, it's chasing this idea of Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a hard sell, isn't it? It sure is. So, you got to be good. So there's a clear and obvious lack of talent. And now you're at the point where even if you could get some of those guys back, you can't afford them. So, it doesn't look good. So, best of luck, Daredevil and MCU. But... well.